What do you get when you cross a quaint little town without much activity, with a witch flying over Salem, Massachusetts? The Salem witch trials, of course. From February of 1692 to May of 1693, a series of trials were held to convict people of being so-called witches. It all started in a minister's home in Salem, Massachusetts, when an Indian named Tituba had apparently told the minister's daughter and niece voodoo tales. These girls later claimed that the devil had possessed them, and everyone believed them because they started exhibiting bizarre signs like making strange sounds and not acting like themselves. Tituba was then sent to court along with Elizabeth Hubbard and Sarah Good. Tituba and the others did not have a fair trial though, because they did not believe in what the Puritans believed in. You see, the Puritans were against anyone who didn't practice their religion, and this essentially led to the Salem witch trials. All of this information resulted in the research question that I created, which is the following. How did the Salem witch trials exhibit aspects of Christianity through the tests that so-called witches were put through? In the various trials that took place in the Salem witch trials, many tests were tried on the so-called witches to see if they really had been practicing witchcraft. The first one was the swimming test. If the person floated, that meant they were a witch, because usually women did not know how to swim back then. If they drowned, they were not a witch, but this was pretty dangerous because they could have died from that. Another test was the prayer test. If the accused could not flawlessly recite verses from the Bible, they were called a witch. This was another silly test because what if the witch, so-called witch, was just super nervous and stuttered a lot? Next was the touch test. The victim would have a reaction if they touched a witch. The victim could easily fake this though, making it unreliable like the rest of the tests. Fourth is the witch mark. If the accused had blemishes or a mole on their skin, they were called a witch. See, the thing is, even I have blemishes on my skin, but that doesn't mean I'm a witch. I think that the pricking and scratching test was the most painful of all of the tests. In this test, the accused was pricked with a needle because it was said that witches would not bleed and regular people would. I feel like this is pretty inhumane though. Second to last was the incantations test. This test is when the witch had to order the devil to let the victim come out of their trance. This test made no sense though, because if the accused could not get the devil to let the victim get better, they would still get punished even though they proved that they weren't a witch. Finally is the weirdest test. A witch cake was made out of rye meal and the urine of the victim. It was then fed to a dog, and when the dog ate it, the witch would be affected in some way. This test was based on some old myth, and it really never ended up working. Most of these tests had some sort of religious component to them. For example, the prayer test required the accused to recite Bible verses, but if they weren't Christian, how could they? Also, the incantations test had to do with Christianity, because the Puritans believed that the devil had been told to possess the victims by the so-called witches, but that was only something that the Puritans themselves believed in. The sad thing is, the Salem witch trials would have never occurred if we could just learn to coexist. Innocent people would not have been sent to prison and killed. Religion truly divides, as was the case in the Salem witch trials.